I'm spreading the infection of the Pollinator Link project, which started in Brisbane in Macrovat, where my bush care group is. Our particular issue is to provide wildlife connections through urban spaces. So we're connecting habitat with water, food and shelter, the three basics. Pollinator Link is a non-profit social enterprise sponsored by Bulimba Creek Catchment. Now, me, surprise, surprise, my background is business and marketing. It is not environment. My passion is the environment. When I failed high school and didn't get a job in the Department of Primary Industries, go to National Parks, I ended up working for Telstra. I'm the director for the Pollinator Link project and co-president of the Macrovat Environment Group. We're creating wildlife corridors and habitat in urban spaces using backyards, balcony gardens, schools, anything we can find. We're linking patches of bushland fragmented by roads, good neighbour fences, you know those steel fences that you can't see your neighbour, so therefore they're good. And all this linking, it links in with what Wally was saying about country, what Julie was saying. The nature is very tough, very resilient. My bush care work, most of our work now is just natural regen. Pull the weeds out and nature will regenerate. We do some planting, but the vast majority is just getting rid of the weeds and nature bounces back. Even in drought, get rid of the weeds and the natives come back. Our project is currently supported by Brisbane City Council, Logan City Council and Ipswich City Council. Now, my job today is not to teach you a lot about pollinators. Very difficult to teach all the detail. My job is to stretch your mind so you start thinking about things you didn't know. Stretch what you know you don't know. So then you can come and ask Julie or Ian from the Botanic Gardens, get advice. So I'll talk about alternative pollinators, because we all think of bees. Pollination, bees, straightforward, isn't it? But there are a lot of other pollinators. Not as good as bees, but a lot of others. Also, plant local to feed locals. Really important when it comes to regenerating our urban spaces. So, if you want information about solitary native bees, Kit Prendergast in WA, she's the guru. She is the absolute guru, and she publishes this guide on bee homes. Bee homes provide shelter for our native bees in urban spaces. Bees are designed to collect pollen. They are very, very good at it because they're designed that way. But beetles. Who thought of beetles as pollinators? Well, yeah, this is an expert. Look, I've been learning a lot very fast. I scratched this photo up from the US Forest Service. It's just a beautiful beetle with pollen all over it. It's not there specifically to spread pollen around like bees are, but it collects it just by being there. I took this photo in Ireland last year, the 7-spot ladybird beetle. She's climbing all over the male parts of the flower. She's going to be collecting pollen, and she'll just automatically pass it on to something else. And as well as that, of course, she's eating aphids and any other things that we don't want in our gardens. Leaf-winged butterfly. I photographed this one in Brisbane in one of the backyards where we've been restoring the habitat. Beautiful butterfly, and again, not only do we get the attractive butterfly, we get a pollinator. and from Canberra. Who thought of flies as pollinators? Now that's narrowing down the field a bit, isn't it? But look at the hairs all over them. The hairs on the legs. They're naturally going to collect pollen, whether they like it or not. So, yeah, the idea there is just to get you thinking about what you wouldn't think about. Now, coming back to familiar territory, the very hungry caterpillar ate its way through just about everything, which is actually a bit of an inaccurate representation, but it's a bit of fun. So, the reason I bring this up is we've forgotten about all this stuff. You know, we learnt about caterpillars turning into butterflies when we were in primary school. Now we see a caterpillar on our citrus tree and we go, zap! My background is marketing, business. All my focus is about working with what's going to happen, whether we like it or not. So rather than sort of, it breaks my heart whenever I see this sort of thing. This is Yarrabilla in 2009. It's a new development on the south part of Brisbane in Logan City. 2013, that's what it looked like. That breaks my heart when I see that sort of thing, but I can't stop it. So I have to work with it, see what I can do with it. That's 2017. Now, fortunately, they kept a bit of green space in the corridors. What about all this? Is this waste space? Or can we do something with it? We can do something with that too. So, this is an excellent book from the US. He points out that 90% of insect herbivores, we're talking your butterflies, your moths, your beetles, all these things, will eat a very limited range of plants. There are a lot of defensive chemicals in plants, nasty things like hydrogen cyanide, bitter tasting things like tannins from our tea. If the animals haven't evolved with the plants that they find, they can't eat them. Just straightforward. The orange ringlet, this is one from my Macrobat bushcare site. Its caterpillars feed only on kangaroo grass. No kangaroo grass, no orange ringlet. Very simple. So, we take that bit of bushland, we strip it bare. I accept that as just being the way it is. For business reasons, economic reasons, whatever, that's the way developments work. And realistically, it probably can't be any other way. We end up with this. Now our job is to say, what can we do with this? So what's happened here is 90% of the local food sources have been replaced with housing. Now, please don't question my 90% here. This is just a marketing thing. But it's probably pretty close to accurate. What's that mean? That's the same as closing down Woolworths and Coles. We keep a few 7-Elevens. How many people are going to stay in Canberra if we close down Woolies and Coles? Thank you. There are always some outliers. So, what we've got to do with this opportunity is to say, how can we utilise it? We need the streets, the parks, and our private gardens planted with let me back up. What typically happens is the streets, the parks and gardens are planted with non-local natives and exotics. This is pretty typical. Part of this is just bureaucratic, historical behaviour on the parts of councils. Part of it is the landscape architects have a limited suite, which they tend to focus on the pretty stuff and things like that, stuff the customers tell them they want. We have to get them to stretch their minds a bit. What we've got to do is plant local natives. This is really important because these defensive chemicals, so if we bring some of those extraordinarily beautiful flowers, wildflowers from WA over here, there's a fair chance the local Canberra bugs can't eat it. The phenols, the tannins, the alkaloids. And the alkaloids are important if you've evolved with them. The blue tiger butterfly, how do butterflies taste? Do they use a tongue? They use their claws. That's the claws of a blue tiger butterfly. So they scratch the leaf, like they'll go onto a something like a Posonsia, scratch the leaf. The males will scratch the leaf. They collect the alkaloids and turn them into nice perfume to attract the girls. So these little marks here, they're the sex brands of the male butterfly. So these nasty chemicals are extremely valuable. Make them not tasty for birds so they don't get eaten, all sorts of things. The non-native or exotics don't have that. What's this mean? Tells us 350 butterfly and moth caterpillars if you plant local native versus 10 if you plant exotics. This doesn't mean we need to have a whole 100% garden of local natives, but we need a good proportion, 20, 30%, something like that, so there's food. How do you know what is local native? In Queensland, southeast Queensland, we've got the Griffith University app, Grow Native. I've got some of those cards. Excellent, and could be replicated in Canberra. We've got the Canberra plants. So go to those, and a lot of the places like the Cool Country Natives, the plants will have a little L on them, which indicates they're local. So see what you can make with that information.